The thing about the River Park project is, as many of you already know, it's a large, complex project. But the output, we believe, is that it's going to create an economic development engine for this region, but also it's going to improve the quality of life for those of us who are already here. So we're very excited about that. We feel that's a win-win for everyone. So tonight we have members of the team that have been helping with this very impactful project so that they can give you information and they'll also be here to answer your questions. So tonight we've got Ashli Workman from tourism who's going to be talking to you about really what are the benefits of this project for the region, and they're considerable. So she's going to be sharing that with you. And then Deidra Ritchie, who is our Executive Director of the Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority, is going to be talking more about the project itself and the various partners that are involved in it, because that's extremely important. And then we've also got Jim Christy from Civil and Environmental Consultants, who are really going to get into the design of the project, and they're going to share with you literally giving you an idea of what it's going to all look like. So what we would like to do is have you hold your questions until we get the presentation of information to you completed. And then what we'd like to have you do is to, those questions that you have, if you could let us know that you have a question, and we will be calling you up to the microphone so that you can ask your question. And one of the reasons we're doing that and being pretty specific. You are saying no. Here, but also it's being recorded for folks who may not be able to share it with us until later. So we'd like them to be able to see and hear the questions that everybody has. So without further ado, we would like to go ahead and start with Ashli.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ashli Workman, and I'm the Director of Tourism for Allegheny County, the state of Maryland. And before I begin this evening, I want to address that Allegheny County Commissioner Bill Atkinson regrets being unable to attend this evening's public meeting in person, but asks that I send along the following words in his absence. The River Park at Canal Place is a top priority for Allegheny County. Not only will the project be transformational to the downtown, but it will continue our growing synergy around outdoor recreation. This project will add to our outdoor amenity assets and be a key driver in our regional strategy for developing the outdoor recreation industry cluster. This type of project enhances our local quality of life, attracts tourists, and assists with economic development by attracting businesses and industries to the county. The River Park project will not only provide recreational opportunities, but will enhance water quality, allow for fish passage upstream, and return the river to a more natural environment. The county stands by this project and will work with our partners to see it completed. So what Commissioner Atkinson asked me to share tonight is really a wonderful summary of the impact the River Park at Canal Place has for this community. And as the Director of Tourism, I want to share that our office serves as the official destination marketing and management office for Allegheny County. And our mission is to enhance the quality of life in Allegheny County and strengthen destination awareness through promotion, development, and services that attract visitors to stay longer and spend more money in our community. The River Park at Canal Place has a strong role in the long-term sustainability of our community, and through tonight's public meeting, we hope to address and highlight the project's capabilities. Now, outdoor recreation has long been recognized as a key component to a healthy and thriving community. And we in Allegheny County have case studies within our own backyard on the recreational impacts of the outdoor-based assets that we have. According to the Maryland Outdoor Recreation Commission, outdoor recreation-related expenditures generated $14 billion in total sales, sustained 109,000 jobs, and generated $951 million in state and local tax revenues for the state of Maryland. In our own backyard, Rocky Gap State Park welcomed over 900,000 visitors last year. And did you know that 70% of Maryland State Park's economic impact is generated within a 20-mile radius from the state's entrance? That means Cumberland generates a great impact from having a state park in its backyard. Allegheny County accounts for 50 miles of the 184.5-mile Siena Canal towpath. And in 2019, an economic study reported that 138,000 visitors directly visited the section of Allegheny County's towpath. 85% of park visitors also visited our towns or cities along the towpath. And in 2019, when the study was completed, 350,000 visitors were reported to have traveled to our trail towns of Cumberland and Frostburg as a direct result of first entering into the national park. The Gap Trail in Allegheny County generates $800,000 in economic impact per mile. Allegheny County is home to roughly 15% of the entire trail system, but generates over 30% of the entire trail's impact through our trail towns of Frostburg and Cumberland. One of the most compelling reasons for communities to embrace outdoor recreation as an economic strategy is its potential to drive long-term economic growth. When communities invest in outdoor amenities, they often are able to attract new businesses and residents through the tourism phenomenon called the halo effect. And I ask you to think about that in your own travels. The places that your children want to go to school, the places that you want to retire to, places that you want to invest in, they usually are a direct result of a positive travel experience in your life. Often overlooked, though, is that these projects are actually designed with residents in mind, you in mind. This project, like many outdoor assets, has the ability to drive accessibility, sustainability, and a sense of community for Mountain Maryland. And I want to remind everyone that not very long ago, there was a little thing called the COVID pandemic. And our outdoor assets were the very thing that sustained our businesses and community during the pandemic. And it's also probably the thing that sustained our own well-being and sanity at times too. I often say tourism is the ambassador of economic development, as it provides an economic strategy to improve the quality of life for our residents. And quality of life is so important for a region to thrive. If we want population growth, if we want new jobs, and if we want outside business investment for our communities, we have to consider what is life like after the 9 to 5. According to the Maryland Office of Tourism, beside visiting friends and family, the second highest reason why people choose to overnight in Maryland is because of Maryland's access to water. This includes the ocean and bay, but it also very much statistically shows is our lakes and our rivers. And the waterfront destinations in Maryland generate incredible opportunities to serve through job creation, community development, and generating economic impact dollars. There is an adage in the tourism industry that for every major attraction you bring to the community, it generates one additional night of a visitor stay. And that is pure economic dollars. They need somewhere to sleep, to buy gas, to dine, to shop. I would imagine that most of us in this room have traveled and truly experienced in our lifetimes the power of riverfront communities, destinations that have reaped environmental, recreational, economical, and benefited greatly from the quality of life these aspects transform. Take Dayton, Ohio, for example. The Five Rivers Metro Park in Dayton welcomed 3.6 million visitors in 2022. This city has taken advantage of the water accessory with the formation of the Riverscape Park, a hub of entertainment in its downtown. The whitewater features attract paddlers and river surfers, while cyclists and hikers are drawn to the adjacent Miami Valley Trail, which is more than 350 miles and is the longest paved trail network in the country. And I say, doesn't that sound familiar to Cumberland with our two trail systems and the river in our backyard? Salida, Colorado, elevated its status as an outdoor destination thanks to its whitewater park investment along the Arkansas River, nestled in the city's historic downtown. The city, with a population of just 6,000 people, welcomes 1 million visitors annually and is now the host of national and international paddling competitions. Most recently, Canal Place Preservation Development Authority worked with the West Virginia University to conduct a River Park Visitor and Tourism Impact Study. In January, we received the results of those findings. With nearly 5,000 survey participants across 8 targeted states, the study projected that the River Park at Canal Place would result in an additional 1 million visitors annually, roughly $219 million in direct economic impact for our region, and $42 million in state and local tax revenues. Projects of this caliber take time, and what we are asking from our elected officials, our community leaders, and the public is to think and invest long-term. The Potomac River is a significant part of our downtown's footprint, connecting nearly every neighborhood of the city from the west side to downtown to South Cumberland. Its activation as an accessible resource to our community creates opportunities for economic, recreational growth throughout the entire city. And one of the biggest advantages we currently have in Cumberland with this project is our ability to directly connect this project to already existing infrastructure. Many projects of this caliber are starting in communities, and this is from the ground up. We have I-68 in our backyard. We have the convergence of 2 internationally recognized bike trails. We have established lodging, dinings, and amenities, and we have a brand new transformational downtown experience being opened this fall. Cumberland and Allegheny County has the potential to greatly benefit from the economic impact of this project it is capable of producing. Thank you very much, and I'd like to turn the mic over now to Deidra Ritchie.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Ashli. Ashli is an amazing tourism director. I mean, she's the best. We're lucky to have her. I wanted to go over some dignitaries and people that are in the audience. We wanted to wait till everybody kind of settled down so we could introduce them. So first on the list is Robin Summerfield, representing Senator Ben Cardin's office. Robin, can you stand up? There he is in the back. Thank you, Robin. Cumberland Mayor, and also sits on our board of directors, Ray Morris. Ridgely Mayor, Bill Shepard, are you in the audience? Did I see you come in? There you are. Cumberland City Council members, E.G. Frazier, Lori Marchini, and I see he just walked in the door, Mr. Jimmy Furstenberg. I'd also like to recognize our Canal Place Preservation Development and Associated Authority board members, our vice chair, Becky Rupert, you met Janice Keene, she was up first, Brad Nixon, Mr. Al Feldstein is our board member that represents the Maryland Historical Trust. And Michael Munch. There's one. I'd also like to announce that later on in the presentation, we've got Matt Sell, who is the Freshwater Fisheries Director in Western Maryland, here to answer any questions, and Robert Smith, City Engineer. And at this time, I'm going to ask Bobby Smith to please come up and make an announcement before I start my presentations of some good news that we heard just the last few days. So Bobby, come on up.
Thanks, Dee. I'm sure some of you read it in the paper this morning. Last night, the mayor and council signed a design agreement with the United States Army Corps of Engineers, to begin design work on the canal rewatering project. As you can see on the full blow-up of these that the CEC created, canal rewatering will essentially remove about 15 to 20 feet of overburden that was installed in the 1950s to serve as flood control for the city, and essentially took out the C&O Canal. So under this project, we would be removing that overburden, which is just excess soil, down to its original grade, and reinstalling the canal rewatering project in connection with the city's 78-inch pipeline project, which is a CSO project attached to our consent order. CSO is combined sewer overflow. So the 78-inch pipeline will carry flows from the city during major rain events down to the water reclamation facility where it will get treated once the rains recede. And that's important for, I want you to think of these as three separate projects. River Park, 78-inch pipeline, canal rewatering. The idea between the design agreement is that we're going to design the 78-inch pipeline in connection with the canal rewatering, bid them as one project. That's important because the way the funding is allocated, essentially the canal rewatering project would be constructed with $0 to the Allegheny County residents. It would be paid fully by the Corps of Engineers, provided we meet some metrics within that 78-inch pipeline project. They're very important, and two of them are tourism projects, because essentially you'll be able to put boats on the canal and it'd be overseen by the National Park Service. I mean, that's the idea. Again, it all takes time sorting all of it out, but these are long-term projects with long-term goals, and it ties into everything that the mayor and council is doing with the support of the commissioners. You always say anything else, Steve?
Hey, whatever you want.
So it's been a pleasure. I've been helping with this project. Once Bill Atkinson moved to commissioner, and I can't wait for them to hire a project engineer that can actually help. But anyway, thank you all very much.
Thanks, Bobby. And last but not least, I'm recognizing my staff that none of this could be done without them. Kim Folk is our marketing and media manager. Roy is our administrative person. Financing and everything else that I can't do and she can do. So I'm here to talk to you today about how the River Park got started and where we are now. So in 2017, a public meeting was held to gauge support for the potential River Park. The response was overwhelming, so we moved forward. We created a River Park steering committee, and we began to reach out to stakeholders that included federal and state agencies that we knew would have to be involved in the project to make it happen. Some of those players were the Army Corps of Engineers, Maryland Department of the Environment, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Maryland DNR, Maryland Historical Trust, National Park Service, State Highway, and there's many, many more. And again, we reached out to these people ahead of time to make sure that we could actually do this project, make sure it was feasible. After we found that out, applied for Appalachian Regional Commission funding and Maryland Heritage Area Authority funding, and we hired a consultant who I'll introduce later. And they did a River Park feasibility study for us that was completed in 2019. Study results came back showing 1.5-mile River Park corridor to include family-friendly whitewater features, new kayak access, trails and trail connections, dam removal and parking, but also other amenities are water quality enhancement and much needed fish passage. Once the study was completed, we held a variety of public meetings and presentations in Allegheny County and in the neighboring state of West Virginia. We received nothing but positive feedback from all those meetings. Jump to 2021, Maryland Heritage Area Authority and city and county funds helped fund a River Park boundary survey, hydraulic survey, and property owner identification. 2023 was a big deal. We applied for a federal earmark of and received $6 million from Senator Cardin, Senator Van Hollen, and Congressman Troman. That $6 million is for trail and trail construction, engineer design, and parking. for the river park. That trail connections, there'll be loop trails that will, you could like start here in Cumberland and walk down the C&O Canal towpath, go across the Carbondale Bridge, come back up through Carbondale and originally and eventually come back to Canal Place, or the bigger trail connection that we're working with Fayette County, Pennsylvania, to connect further into Pennsylvania through the Gap Trail, and also through West Virginia up to Davison and Elkins, West Virginia. We recently completed a preliminary engineering report. It's 90% complete. We're waiting for a little bit more data. And that report showed us the next steps for engineering and design of the project and addresses the sediment analysis and identifies the permitting process that will be next. We're getting ready, and this is what Bobby was talking about. We're trying to find, we're pretty sure we have found an engineering firm that we can bring on to do this work. But Bobby Smith from the City of Cumberland, and thank you to the Mayor and City Council for letting him help on this project. It's been huge. Bobby actually advertised an RFP for this study, and he did all, the legwork on it. And now he's getting ready to advertise for the sediment study. We do have funding to do that, and that will be the next step. Hopefully, we're going to advertise for that in, Bobby, April, March, tomorrow. Yeah, anyway. So, let's see. We have received funding through the city, the county, ARC, Department of Commerce, Maryland Heritage Area Authority, and state capital budget funding. We have enough funding right now, over $8 million to start, again, the sediment testing and the engineering and design process. So that'll be our next steps. The total project cost has been estimated at $25 million. Again, we've already secured over $8 million in funds, and we will continue to apply for and secure grants to complete this project. And the last point I want to make before I introduce CEC consultants is, before we even started this project, we knew that this was going to be a huge tourist attraction. We absolutely did. But we also looked out for the quality of life that I believe Jim mentioned earlier. We looked out for the residents of Allegheny County and the surrounding region. And this river park will benefit everybody. Businesses, local people, it's access to the North Branch that we do not have right now. The river's clean. You'll be able to get into a clean river. It'll be a safe river. It'll be accessible, and best of all, it'll be no charge to get into. So we're super excited about this. The support that we've had for this project, the partnerships have been incredible. And this is what happens when people work together. You see the rewaterings happening. Look at downtown Cumberland Mall. I mean, it's going to be wonderful. So it just takes time. I mean, you get to the engineering part, that's going to take a minute because there's a lot of things that we looked at. There's safety, there's sediment. So we're taking all that into consideration. Now I would like to introduce CEC consultants and Mr. Jim Christy and Colin McCardle. I've been practicing his last name. We'll be up to talk about what they've done with the river park and answer any questions.
How's everybody doing? I'm going to take this off. I know Jim also said the same thing. He's like, I'm not going to stand up here and just hold back on here. We can't do that. So once again, nice to meet everybody here. Colin McCardle. I'm with CEC. I'm an assistant project manager there. I've been working alongside Bobby on this project for some time now. And I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia, originally. Born and raised there, still live there. But I'm part-time living here in Cumberland as well. My family, my wife's family, for 8 years. I hope I got that right. She'll be mad at me if I didn't get that right. I've been with her for 8 to 9 years. That covers it all there. So, but we've been together for 12 years. And over 12 years, I get to really see Cumberland, get to really be there with her family, experience the area, meet lots of wonderful people in this area. So this project's near and dear to me. I have a 6-year-old son. He loves the outdoors. He loves everything with it, especially the water. So you'll see a little boy named Ellis McCardle probably in a few years here flying down. There's a whitewater rapids too as well. So looking forward to this and have a big heart in this. I really want to see this do well and be a great part of the community here. So just to harp on what Dee said here, let's go ahead and step back a second here. Let's talk about the completed tests that have been on this project already. So once again, GPM Associates in 2010 started the dam removal feasibility of the project just to see if it was even feasible to remove the industrial dam. And then also in 2010, Princeton Hydro produced a sediment report, a phase 1 report. And in that report, they, at that point, 2010, so that's been about 14 years ago now, but they determined there was about 145,000 cubic yards of contaminated sediment behind the industrial dam at that point. And then once again, 5 years later, we had Maryland Geological Survey produce another sediment study. And then these are important too, moving forward, that now we'll have historical data of what the contaminants were and how it's changed over the time period as well as the project's been going on. And then from that point, CEC, that's when we jumped in right around 2017, 2016, we produced the original River Park preliminary concept. And then from that point on, we were asked again to come through and do a feasibility study and a master plan in spring of 2020. And at that point too, we also produced some bathymetry of the behind the industrial dam to see exactly how much sediment, how deep it is behind the dam and upstream. And we did a pretty large project area. I want to say, if I remember correctly, it's at least 1,500 feet up and downstream from the dam. And then, as we spoke on right now, we did the 30% preliminary engineering report for the in-water portion of the project, for the whitewater features and everything like that. And then along with an updated master plan to go along with that. And that's also with our team members here, recreation engineering and planning. And they've been doing the primary in-water design work. Okay, so we kind of talked about where we are up to this point now. So let's talk about just what the next steps of the project are. First thing we'll have to do, we said there, we're about 95% complete draft of the 30% preliminary engineering report. Additional hydraulic analysis revisions will need to be done, and that's been in continued coordination with the Army Corps. We've been working with them before, and we continue to work with them through this project. So we've been working with them hand in hand for a long time on this project already. And then the next step after that too, or along the same times here, would be the sediment study above and below the dam. Right now, the previous 2 studies that I mentioned just before, they were all above the dam, and we hadn't checked below it. So with that historical data, we will be able to see what has been released over time. I know there's been some historical floods since 2010, and we'll be able to really see what the recommendations will be for the sediment removal or release or something in between of the hybridization of those. And we'll know that after the report is complete. And then from that point on, we'll go on to 100% construction documentation and permitting through all the permitting agencies at that point too. And then once you get to that point, you're into project bidding and construction at that point. So as you can see, we're pretty far into the project. We just have a few more steps to go here to really finalize it and get the full construction moving along. Okay, so we had a lot of comments of people asking about, well, if you remove the industrial dam, is it going to flood? No, the industrial dam was never a flood control measure through the Army Corps. It was placed there specifically for water intake, and it has never been a part of flood control for the Potomac River. And it was constructed independently of the Blue Bridge. So we did a preliminary structural analysis based off all the existing plans from the 1950s. So our structural engineer was really happy with this, seeing some really old blueprint plans that have been around for a long time. But he was able to look through it all and recognize that the dam was independent of the structure of the Blue Bridge. So the removal of the industrial dam is feasible and it is doable. And then, like I said too, just want to make sure we reiterate this too. If you remove the dam, it will not affect the Blue Bridge whatsoever at that point. And like we mentioned too, within the flood control project from the Army Corps, dated in 2021, it notes the industrial water supply dam is not a flood control. It's more the flood control portions are the splitter wall that is at the confluence of Wills Creek and of the Potomac River, the concrete encasement of Wills Creek, and the levees on either side of the Potomac Dam. But it doesn't mention the dam as a floodgate or a flood control measure. So, again, another people said that, like we mentioned before, that flooding issues would happen when you remove the dam. Where does that water get to? Well, it's the same volume of flow above stream and below stream as it is now. When we do the whitewater, I'll show you in a little bit more detail about that. But at that point, the volume is the same. I think a lot of people get confused, and when they look at it, they imagine, which we see a lot of times around here, lakes around here are built around a large dam, and you have a 100-year emergency spillway, so it never crests above that in large flow events. This is more of a river. We're not pulling water behind any of this. The dam was never to pull water behind it and do flood control measures. So when you have larger events anyways, it's purging over top of it. So again, with what we'll be doing with the Whitewater Park, the volume of water will remain the same. The width of it, the depth of it will all be similar. And I'll show you that in a little bit more detail with some graphic representations of that as well. And so speaking of the graphical representation, so just a quick drawing here, just showing you kind of what the industrial dam looks like right now. At the front end, you have a small concrete pad just to the upstream side of it to prevent scouring on the upper end, and a large concrete mass that creates the dam. It's kind of on a little, it's a conical shape there, going down over the top with a spillway, and it has a scour pad at the bottom of it right now to help reduce erosion. And that's because of the fast slope that you're seeing moved on that. So like I was saying, imagine this is not a lake that we're talking about that's being dammed up around here. This is a river that's constantly flowing, constantly moving. So what are we doing to create the Whitewater Park? So realistically, and essentially, if you want to look at it this way, this helps people understand what exactly we're doing. You're going to take the dam, and basically imagine that we're cutting the dam into smaller sections of like 2 to 3 feet at a piece. And we're taking that dam from one location that's underneath the Blue Bridge right now, and we're going to be expanding it upstream a few hundred feet and downstream a few hundred feet to the confluence of Wills Creek. So all we're doing right now is cutting it up, making it smaller, making it passable for family-friendly whitewater activities where people can come through in either kayaks, canoes. If you want to come down through your little donut ring, you can do that too. I'm sure some people are crazy enough that they come through just flying right through without anything at all. Like I said, my son, 100% would probably do that. So once you imagine that you have that idea, that we're just taking the dam and we are removing the dam. So don't get me confused on that. The dam is being removed, but it will now be a whitewater feature. So once you imagine it being cut up and shifted, if my mouse wants to work with me, which it doesn't, there we go. You'll see I have it kind of superimposed over the top of it here. So what we're showing is a rough concept of what the whitewater dam would look like, what the whitewater features would look like here. So if you see it here, I'm going to try to walk in front of it here a little bit. When you come in from the upstream portion of it, the water level, the still water level that's behind the dam is the same as it was at the industrial dam level. But all you're doing is creating the steps down with pools in between it that will give areas for the water to slow down a little bit and then speed up and be tightened down into the whitewater sections to force the water through faster, then allow for pooling areas coming down through. And then eventually, once you get to the bottom here, you're at the same elevations that the dam was at the beginning, at the very end, just getting spread out over a longer period, a longer area. Now to go again with the flooding as well, you can see here, if you kind of imagine a triangulation, right now you've had all this material and everything here that's caused higher flooding, so your elevations are closer to the top of the levee dams. So now at that point, bigger flows, less area for the water to go to, goes higher up into the levees and more potential of higher risk of flooding. But within this area now, you've allowed for a greater volume of water to be able to be held within that area in high flow events. And then again, just to see, so you've seen it from kind of a plan view cross section going downstream. Now I just wanted to show you a graphical representation of what the cross section will look like across the stream. So what you're seeing. So right now what you're seeing is so our whitewater team who designs this, it's large boulders grouted into place, sometimes using sheet pilings that are hidden behind it to make it look natural. to hold it into and anchor it into the bedrock that's below the stream. And they'll hold it in place during any kind of flood event, so it will not be moving anywhere downstream. There won't be any issues like that. But what it allows for is different flow events. So it's designed primarily for the average flows that you would see throughout the year. So on a typical day, you could see people going down that. It's made for family friendly. Like again, my 6-year-old, I'm gonna keep bringing him up. He can go down on most events. Now there'll be some time, like you said, we're using natural water. There's no pumps that are gonna be used to push the water over the whitewater rapids. And they're not gonna be class 3, class 4, class 5 rapids that you're seeing out like in the Gauley rivers or Ohio or anything like that. And all it's doing is it's allowing higher flow rates and higher cubic feet per second to allow to pass through it at different flood elevations here as well, and river elevations as it goes up. So it allows for more room as the flood volume goes up. So then on talking about the dam as well too, we need to talk about sediment control. Like I mentioned, for the contaminants, we are going to be doing the next steps here now. We're going to be doing a sediment study where they're going to be doing coring above the dam and below the dam to see what the levels are of the contaminants that are within the waterway. At some points, they'll make a recommendation in there as to again what the process will be. Will it be dredging and removal of the contaminated soil, or will it be low enough levels that it will be able to naturally pass and push sediment down throughout the entire confluence? Again, that will be done by the professionals who know exactly what they're looking for and what the allowable levels are for safety of wildlife, and that will be done. Then, and that's when we'll know exactly what the process will be doing with the sediment. And then just to speak on water quality for you as well too. We've had a few people mentioning that before that if you speed up the water and you send it through the whitewater process here, that it's going to warm up the water somehow. That's typically that's just not true. In still water, the water's going to heat up more. It's sitting there longer, more time getting baked in the sun. The water level's going to raise up. That's not good for wildlife. That's not good for fisheries. That's not good for anything. But now that we'll be able to be moving the water through at a better rate throughout the whole duration of the whitewater area, we'll be able to cool down the water temperature significantly and add to what the successes have been upstream already for trout fisheries throughout from Western Port to about Crescent County area. And that's right now too, speaking of water quality and wildlife fisheries, right now the industrial dam, it's impeding the ability for the American eel to swim upstream of it. It's blocked, if I remember correctly, it's blocked off about 41 miles of areas for spawning regions for them, and that's a big impact to the waterways and water quality. And their ability to bring up especially mussel species up the river will only help enhance the water qualities at this point. So we'll see in the water in water designs we'll have fish passage specifically for the American eel that will be able to go up during low flow events and low flow seasons of the river as well. So speaking of the fish passages here, the dam was constructed in 1950. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier or not, but since the 1950s, they haven't been able to travel the stream. Again, it will allow for 40 some miles of the fish passage, especially for the American eel and other aquatic species as well, too. And like I said too, I kind of already touched on it here. I got ahead of myself a little bit. Promoting the diversity of mushroom species up through the system and improving water quality for the Potomac as a whole overall. Okay, so then as I mentioned here, we have the preliminary engineering report that included 30% design of the in-water, whitewater work here. So this is from our team members here at our REP, and wanted to show their quick pooling areas. This will really give you a good idea. I've showed you cross sections of a drafted rendered version of both directions, upstream and side stream here. But this will give you a little bit better idea of exactly what you're going to be seeing with the whitewater feature drops. So again, there will be a total of 7 whitewater feature drops. Stopping at drop 1, that will take you in right next to where the dispensary is across from there. That first drop, again, that level of still water upstream from that point is the same elevation that was behind the dam at this point. So I just want you to remember that when we're going through it, that level of water is now just going to be pushed back to that location. And the same here at drop 7, the water level will remain the same as it was before below. So drop 1 will be about a 2-foot drop. They'll take you down through the center of the stream with low flow fish passages, which you'll see that here. They're kind of hard to see for some people, but they just kind of follow alongside there, and it's kind of graded down into it where there's a lower point where it's the lowest flow of the river. That always there'll be the ability for fish to pass upstream again. And you'll see this along the way. Drop 2 will be another 2-foot drop. Drop 3 is also another 2-foot drop. And then you get to a little bit lower drop on the outside river left here of 1.5 feet. Now the bigger drop, they have a high flow notch for large flow here. Now this is going to be an area that no one's really going to go to. You might have if you have if you have some kind of a competition or something like that, larger people who are professionals at it, they see this and they'll say, this is a great hole, I want to go to that. That's going to be for those types of people. But for the majority of anyone else, again, my son, who's going to go down it probably without any tube or anything, he's going to go down through here. But this is the feature drop, 3 foot, coming down through the island where the existing industrial dam was, is now converted into some nice drops down through there. That will also provide an underpass for trail for viewers to get up close and watch people come down through the whitewater drops. And you'll see some areas like that. We'll have a video at the ending of our presentation here where you'll see kind of what we're talking about there too in a realistic standpoint here as well. Drop 6 will take you down to about 1.5 foot drop. And then once you get to drop 7, it's another 1.5 foot drop, and you're down at the confluence of Wills Creek and the Potomac. And you get there before you hit the trestle, and then that'll give the ability for people to come back around, come back up to the parking area. They can shuttle themselves back across on a levee, which Jim will get more into the actual upland master plan design work. But it'll take you around, circle around, and you can make that whole loop multiple times throughout a day. Gives opportunities for shuttle companies to come in, help shuttle people, and other economic diversity with, again, restaurants and additional lodging and stuff like that as well for people who are coming in to enjoy it, as well for the users of the town. Again, someone like me who's a part-time liver at Cumberland, this would be great for me and my family to just come down and drop in for a half a day, go hang out at the Krabby Pig or something like that, head back home and enjoy the rest of the night and enjoy the area here. But at that point, that's about all I had for the design portion of it here. Again, from our teammates at REP who created the layout here. It's going to be a significant boost to the area, and I'm going to pass it off over to Jim too. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I see many familiar faces and new faces. My name is Jim Christy. If you can't hear me, just tell me to get louder. I'm a 26-year landscape architect. I do recreational master planning. Done half of that in Colorado, and now half of it here in the Appalachians. It's my total life. My background is that. My father was the head of economic development, the director for West Virginia, so I grew up in a household that what you do is create jobs. You create opportunity for people to stay where they grow up. And so these are the type of projects we work on, and our team is, right now, you just see Colin and I, but we have a team of 120 people in our office, and we probably had about 30 people looking at this job. So this is an important project. I have been involved for a while, as Ashli and Dee mentioned. This has gone through some iterations, and this is the most current one and the most studied. This is the direction that it will go. What I would like to do is kind of walk you through the whole master plan and give you an idea, and hopefully I answer most of your questions while I do that. I will step in and out so that I try to stay out of your way over here. But what we'll do is we'll kind of start up at the top. Can you give me that pen over there so I can put a pointer? Thank you. So look at the shadow of my pen. But up here is the original pool that Colin mentioned. That pool level will stay the same as it is currently. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at opportunities, not just for the whitewater, but flat water. We want different opportunities for different people. We like to spread people throughout the recreational system. And so it's really important that we start to see these different opportunities. The other thing that allows us to do is the water intake. By law, this project has to keep the water intake for the canal. We also like that opportunity that if you ever need any other additional water intakes in that system, we have that opportunity. So it's really important to have that piece of it in this project. As we come down through these sections, Colin mentioned the different structures, and as you go down through those structures, there's big pools. There's able to stay in one pool if you want and do that wave. You can go to two and do that wave and come back. So you have opportunities to do a different system. You don't have to go through all drop structures. You can do one. You can do all of them. But you can stay within this system as you come through. We have a trail all along the shoreline and little beach put-ins and takedowns. What that does is allow the spectators. There's a lot of people that will want to come and see this. They may not participate. That's okay. You end up with a lot more spectators than you do participation. As Colin said, he has a young 6-year-old. I have teenagers. I am your perfect candidate for this. You know, Cumberland needs 100 of me showing up because I show up with my wife, my kids, and their 2 friends. So we're looking for different things to do. We're looking for rail trails. We're looking for water. I'm a fisherman, so I want to be fishing all the time. And that's how we're going to stay for multiple days to create an impact, an opportunity for different jobs and different businesses within your community. I'll talk about the upland. We talk about in-water and upland. So in-water is anything in the water. Upland is outside of it inside the basin, but along the levees. So we have a trail along the water, and then we have one on top of the levee. What that does is it creates different vantage points. It gets you up high looking down, then you get down towards the water and be close. It also is nice little loops. We like to do ADA pathways for all of that. So if I'm in a wheelchair and I can get through this whole system, I get up close, right? This is great opportunities that you have here. And then on the, what we call river right, river left, if you're a paddler, you know it's downstream. River right when you're facing downstream, or river left. We have the fish passage on river right all the way through. So every structure has that fish passage to continue to allow that, and I think it's 42 miles of additional stream up until you get to the next dam. Our pathways go under the Blue Bridge, so that contains that trail to have this without any obstacles of going over the street, over the road. We want to try to get people into the system and keep them in that system so that you don't have those conflict areas. And right now I'm just talking about this Maryland side of things. As we come down through here, under the underpass near the George Washington headquarters, we have a parking facility. I think it's really important to have that parking facility close to this Whitewater Park. So you have ease of access on and off, and again, that's not just for the users, but that's for spectators as well. Within that, we have some spectator seating, or kind of amphitheater seating places. So when you do have events, you have places to sit and really enjoy and watch people, whether they're learning or experts. Keep in mind that we designed this for 98% users, not the 2%. 2% are experts. There's plenty of expert whitewater rafting. This is for families. We want to have that experience for everybody. We have these connections all through, and there's loop trails. But we also have a connection over to Canal Place and then over to the C&O Trail. And you'll start to see some different things as we get down outside of the Whitewater Park. We start to get into more upland trails and fishing opportunities and things of that nature. Again, we're trying to spread people throughout a system. When we do community recreation plans, we're trying to create that job opportunity. We're trying to create a sense of place and to bring people in, but we also want to keep our people here and have an opportunity to stay. And so by doing this, we're spreading a lot of people throughout a system. And that system creates many, many opportunities for recreation. So we're utilizing viewing platforms up above to look at the scenic train tracks, to look at the Whitewater Park in the lower section of the river, which is a little more calm. And then we utilize some of this area where you have sediment, you have buildup, to create closeness to that water. So me, I want to come down and go fishing, but other people might want to just get in and kayak and swim that calmer water. We have an ADA pathway. This is the C&O overlook. If you guys have been there, you know what I'm talking about. It has a nice little interpretive signage and a rail there. From that point, we can get in, if you're up there, it's pretty far down to the water basin. This plan has an ADA pathway that goes down all the way to the basin, and then it goes down, it's 0.6 miles to the existing maintenance access for mowers to get down to that lower basin. And now you have a loop. So you have a little over a mile loop using the CNO and this trail. So there's a really nice upland area for that. Off of this sheet, you can continue this trail down to the Perkindale Trestle and then to the West Virginia side. And you come back up the West Virginia side, and there's, again, multiple loops. So mile loops up to 3-mile loops. So what that does is that allows somebody that's a biker, or e-bikes are huge now, that you can go down across the trestle, back up the West Virginia side, and across the Blue Bridge, and come back to where you started. So now we've created opportunity for fishing, kayaking or canoeing, in-water things, hiking, biking, and you have multiple things you can do. So instead of just coming here for the Whitewater Park, now I'm coming to stay because I want to do a long distance trail, Whitewater Park, do some fishing, and then do the loop trails because there's multiple loop trails and opportunity. On that West Virginia side, we do have some additional parking areas and access points for put-ins and takeouts. The put-ins and takeouts are fluid at this point. You know, as they've mentioned, we're through a process. We're early in the process. We've done that 30% design set. Still a little bit to finish there. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers to do the floodplain modeling, the hybrid modeling. But as we go through this, and you guys can see, there's also a board over here afterwards you can go check out. It is labeled everything. I went through it pretty fast. There's a lot of information on here, but I'd like for you to take a look at it and kind of see what those ideas and how we're talking about utilizing this facility, how we're creating opportunities in Maryland and West Virginia. You know, it's a big regional project. Let me go. It's too fast. So some of these trail loops, this is just a graphic to kind of show you how that goes. And of course, we're using the tunnel now. I know the tunnel's off limits at this point. I've been through the tunnel many times before the class. But those are these opportunities that you want to think about. And none of these don't all have to be done right now with the Whitewater Park. But they need to be thought about right now because you need to start planning ahead. And as we get through and make this successful Whitewater Park, you have to start with these smaller trails. When I say the smaller trails, this first one right here, it goes up from the overlook down to the maintenance and back. That's a really nice 1-mile loop. And then you have that secondary loop that goes all the way down and across and back up the West Virginia side. And eventually, hopefully, we can get that tunnel back open because it's a great opportunity for people to visit and see and a visitor's attraction through over to Carbondale. So I'm not saying that any of those are easy or hard, but they're opportunities that we think about when we do full-scale recreational master planning. And I think, as I mentioned, it's all our team does. We do it all over the country. I've had the opportunity to do it all over the world. One more. So here's some of the water trail. Maryland and Illinois Potomac, you were the top of the very beginning, the longest water trail in Maryland. And now we can add 42 more miles to it, which is absolutely incredible. These are existing put-ins and takeouts, and you start to see there's some big gaps. As a family, I only want to take my family like 2 miles, maybe 3. So when you start to talk about 5.4 miles, that's a heck of a day, and you're pretty worn out as a paddler, even as somebody that paddles a lot. So we want to look at this as we go through the project and start to shrink that down and create different opportunities. Some of that's going to be private people that want to have that opportunity, and others are going to be government property or Army Corps property. So you can kind of see where we're heading with this and where the project situation, the project's right in here. So we're just talking about a small piece of that, but we're thinking and planning at a larger scale. So a little bit in conclusion of this, it is an industrial dam. Let's make sure we all understood that. I think he had put that in there. Industrial dam, it can be removed. It's not attached to the bridge. It surrounds the bridge, but the structures aren't the same. And so we will be able to take care of that situation. I know that's been a concern. The sedimentation studies, we have the background. So now we have a baseline and we're moving forward. So that's the next steps. And then we're going to maintain that water intake for the canal. Extremely important, has to be done. And I think it adds another level of opportunity for the recreational user. Their water levels going into the project and out of the project are the same they are today. It just becomes a wider structure. So over 1,000 feet as opposed to over 1 drop. Quality of water and fishing opportunities. So you mentioned the American eel. American eel is an important species for your river. It will spread the mussels throughout the system. That's the impediment. They stop here. Historical levels go all the way up through the Potomac. This will allow 42 miles just of the Potomac, not to mention all of the tributaries. So that's an important aspect to overall health of this river and ultimately the Chesapeake Bay. Accessibility, having multiple parking lots and ADA accessibility throughout. To me, that hits me hard. That's an important thing. Every time we do a project, we need to be thinking about that, and we need to be pushing for those opportunities so that we can have accessibility throughout the project. And then the stronger connections for this community. So when I look at a community such as Cumberland, I'm also looking at the region as a whole. I'm thinking, how do I connect to Frostburg? How do I get over to Ridgely? How does this all come together? Because you are one big regional community. It might be separated by a river, but it's really important to uplift the region as a whole and not just one community. So that's the way I kind of think of that as a community and recreational planner. We need to work together to uplift this whole community to create those opportunities for everybody who lives here and grows up here. So outdoor recreation opportunity equals future community success. I've seen it all over the world. I've seen it in Argentina, India, Costa Rica, all over the United States. So I think I built a whole career on it. It's really fun to see a community, especially one that might be in mining country that's had a downturn for decades, to do something to a project like this and start to get visitorship in, new jobs, growth opportunities, and then get young people to stay. I think it's a fantastic way to build that economic growth. So that's all I have. Hopefully I've answered some of your questions. What we're going to show here is just a video. We'll just let it kind of spin through. These are whitewater parks with recreation engineering planning that we've worked with and that's working on this project. These are different parks they've done throughout the country. They're almost always done in an area that's kind of seen a downturn in the economy, and we're trying to bring them back. Some of the places are tourism destinations, but most aren't. That's Dayton. So that was mentioned by Ashli earlier. It's a really similar project here, almost identical. And then you start to see some Western ones. There you sort of look at the facilities and how these drop structures are built. And Colin showed some good examples of how that's cut and how that's built. You're going to see some really heavy whitewater, and then you'll see some really low stuff. That depends on the flow of the river at the time. But the idea is to really give you multiple opportunities so that you come back every year and it's something different. You're going to see kayakers, canoers, paddle boarders, and just people kind of running through it. But you start to see some of these cityscapes with the bridges in the background, very similar to here. So we're not recreating the wheel. I think it's important to understand that this has been done successfully over and over again throughout the United States. You don't have any really like that in this region, so it's really a nice opportunity. And you sit in a great place. You're not far from the Beltway. You have visitors. You have a lot of visitors that come through and go to Deep Creek Lake that should be coming right here and stopping and spending $1 or $2. So it's a lot of fun. And this will go on for a while. We'll let this loop and we can ask them, have the questions start. But you can start to see and start to envision how this will work at the Potomac and what that will look like within your community, how that's going to change things. Some of these pictures you'll see in here, you'll start to see hundreds of people along the shore just watching. And I bet a lot of people in this room are going to do the same thing. It's really fun to watch the kayakers, especially either ones that are really good or the ones that are just learning. They're more fun. And then our designers, they're surfers and they're paddleboarders, and they've done paddleboarding the whole river, but they paddleboard this. That's a wave in a competition. And then they can do this on creeks, as far as like a 20-foot wide creek or a 300-foot wide river like the Potomac is here. So thank you everybody for coming and showing interest in it.
Does anybody have any questions for anybody about the presentation or just comments? Yeah.
Hi, Dee. The pamphlet that you handed out to me last week or so indicated about 1 million additional visitors targeted toward this river park. And on 180 days a year, that's like 7,000 people a day on average. So I don't know if the parking would come close to accommodating thousands of additional people.
Yeah.
So just how much parking are we going to gain with the water park?
Well, first of all, I hope to have, that would be amazing if that happens. I mean, right now we're looking at parking underneath the interstate bridge. Maybe additional parking over, around Canal Place if we can work that out. I guess right now we'll just use what we have for.
So that's a great question. We build that on every project. So as you do plan these projects, you don't build the mass of parking at the beginning of any of these projects. You have to show that success, and you build it and plan for it over time. We're starting with what we need and we think is going to be the minimal. And then as you get growth and success, you start planning for where you're going to park people. And a lot of places, especially when you're in a city, what we do is we find places far away and we do shuttle services. I don't think you're going to have 7,000 people standing in there in that one section at one time. People come in, they stay for an hour and they move on. That's why you have long distance trails and biking trails and fishing. You're spreading people through a system, you're moving them around, that you will continuously look at this. If you're successful, you're going to continue to look at it and you're going to improve on infrastructure. Infrastructure is expensive. And so you start with a bottom line and then you work your way through it. We do that on very small scale projects on up to something like this, especially in the municipality.
I saw a hand in the back.
Right here first.
We didn't hear anything like a timeline. When do you expect all the permits, all the funding, and would construction begin? How long would construction take? And then how disruptive is construction? There are going to be a lot of trucks moving materials. Can you give me any sense?
Yeah, there's a flyer here, right? The flyer has a little bit of a timeline. It takes a couple of years to do the permitting. So you do the design and the permitting together, and it takes a few years to get that accomplished. Once you're going that, when you're building these, you're building basically half of one feature at a time, and then you're going to the other side of the river and building the other half. So what you're doing is creating a coffer dam. You're building out to the middle of the river, and then you're reversing that coming back. It's not a huge amount of disruption. You are running in boulders and things, but we work with the Department of Highways when we do that to create the least amount of impact. And we don't have staging areas, and those haven't been scoped out yet. But when you get to that, when we get to the point where we're going towards permitting, we have to figure out where those staging areas are and how that traffic control works. But those are next steps. We don't bring it up right this second because there's so much more to do to get to that point.
Just raise your hand.
So, my father-in-law has a home in Salida.
Yeah.
I kayak there.
You said it right. You know how to.
I heard her say Salida, and I'm like, that's on my older 14 months. This is Salida. And then I take that loop hiking there often, and I climb actually Slide Mountain that I would guess.
Yeah.
They just showed.
Yeah.
Do we already have access to the land on the West Virginia side to create a trail coming back from the Carbondale from the tunnel? Is that land, is that private land?
On the Carbondale side?
Yeah.
That's
But not only in the town, just on the other side of the river, that's private land?
on the other side of the river in the basin, that's Army Corps of Engineering.
Okay, so that trail, we wouldn't have to acquire anything,
Yeah.
that's already.
Maryland owns the high water mark of the Potomac River. We're near high water mark on both sides.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay, great.
so yeah. And I'm glad you said Salida. And if you haven't been, if people haven't seen, you can look this up and look at Salida and their water park. If you haven't been there or seen it before the Whitewater Park, there was not much in Salida. I lived in Colorado for 14 years, and there really wasn't much there. It's really changed dramatically.
So my father-in-law bought a house in 1988 for $19,000, and it's currently worth $480,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, what it has done to the town is phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great success story.
Thank you. You mentioned the upper level water, but basically the same level. My concern would be at the lower level, right now below the dam, next put in or take out would be G Basin. Most of that is, right below the dam is pretty much unnavigable right now. Will that water flow increase at all, or?
No, it's the same level. So if you look at it, we're not narrowing down the basin. That basin has flood control. So that width is really important for the flood control. The same amount of water that comes down through the top of it is the same that's going to go through the bottom. So what you see today, it's the same amount of water. You're not creating more, and in some places when we do full water stream restoration, if it weren't an Army Corps flood control project, we can meander, we can tighten it up, we can change that depth. But in this scenario, below that, we're in the flood control. We're going to do our work within the Whitewater Park. Beyond that, it's going to stay very similar because it is that flood control basin. And you can navigate it when the water's higher, because I've done it. But when it does get lower, there's some sediment islands. Some of this project will help with that sediment transport too. Because right now, that sediment transport is all messed up through that system because of man-made action. Typically, a natural sedimentation will push it through a system and allow you to have navigable waters throughout.
I understand you can sort of hang the bowl, but if you start at the top and just make a straight run through, about how long would a run last you?
It's a good question. I don't know. Pretty fast. Yeah, it's what, 1,000, 1,500 feet. You can move through that fairly fast. Now, I don't think you will. I think what you're going to do is when you go through each of those sections, it has a nice pool. It slows you down. You're going to eddy out and kind of pull off to the side, because once you start to get a few people in, you start taking turns. And it gives you opportunity. It's a social thing. If you've ever played in a river in a boat, it's really fun to kind of move through and get off to the side. I like it. I'm a social person. I like to talk. So.
Steph.
A question about access. In the videos here, we see all manner of watercraft, but as far as how how people are permitted to use the water. I see some scenes in the video with kids and tubes, so if there's going to be a lot of regulations where the only people that are going to be allowed to use this are going to be people with relatively expensive specialized equipment like canoes and kayaks, or will local kids be able to go down there with inner tubes and go through it?
Yeah, absolutely. We want everybody to be able to use it. So we don't see a bunch of special regulations on it. What we see is creating that opportunity for that 90%, 98% user. We want everybody to be coming here and do that. You know, historically, most people in this room have never been in that basin because it's an Army Corps of Engineering project. So the idea is keep people safe, keep them out of it. So by allowing them back in, we start to open this up. We want families there. You know, that's really important. And you'll see a lot of different access points when you look at these projects. If you guys look up the Miami River, Dayton, Ohio, you will see, and if you look at an aerial, you will see Cumberland. I promise you. It has the same bend in the river. It has a Wills Creek version coming into it, and it had a dam all the way across over 300 feet. And they've taken that out. What they did there is they just made one big wave the whole way across. Now, their water's a little more flat than yours too. But it's fabulous. And they have the exact same trail systems going through. These are concrete trails. They're concrete for a reason, because the flood levels come up, they cover the trail, they go back down. The concrete stays better than an asphalt or a gravel system. So we're always conscious when they're designing of how the user's going to use it, whether they're little kids or adults, somebody with disability, somebody with a wrap. You know, we have to think through as many opportunities as we can for this. And we do want cheapers.
Thank you. So I've been following this off and on. It's been in the news, and it seems like a good idea. So that leads me to wonder who can kill it? Who decides whether or not it gets permitted? Who decides if it doesn't get permitted? And if something like Mike McKay's bill had become law, how would that affect the fate of the project?
So I'll answer the first one. Army Corps of Engineers is the ultimate approver of this project. And whether we can create a project that is even on the flood control or less, it cannot add more to the floodplain. So that's the number one criteria, and everything beyond that that we can do for them is their decision whether we can do it or not. So as we go through this process, we work side by side with them to make sure that we create a system that works for them. Now, we also have National Park and Fish and Wildlife, NDE, we have a lot of agencies. But ultimately, the Army Corps of Engineers, this is their flood control project, and they have to be the ones that approve it or not approve it. That's all of these projects you see here, same situation. As far as the politicians, I'm out of the politician game. I'm more about building jobs and economic development. And I can tell you that every one of these is a huge, huge success for economic development. I would hope that everybody would get behind that. If you want to create that opportunity within your community, I think of raising my kids. I want my kids to stay close to me, right, and have opportunities. I happened to leave West Virginia after college because there was no opportunity for me for what I do. I went to Colorado where they do that. But then luckily things have changed in Appalachia, and this kind of project is really important. So I have come back, and for the last 14 years, that's all I do in this region. It's fantastic to see.
I firmly believe that because of the importance of this project to the community and the potential benefit to the community, that our legislators will get behind what we're doing here, particularly as it becomes more and more real. I know so many people have heard about the river park for a long time, and wondered, is it still happening? And you know, where is it and what has to be done yet? And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have this public meeting with you tonight. But we believe that that our legislators will support us going forward because this is of such benefit to the community. Anybody else have any other questions?
Right here.
Where did Kim go?
Right here.
Kim.
Yeah, one back here.
Okay.
Who's gonna clean up the debris from the storms? I'm just curious.
Say that again. Okay, so with a system like this, it actually works better. The dam and the piers catch a lot of debris. You've seen for years there was a big tree that sat there. That typically on flood events gets wiped out in a typical fashion. Those are things that we will be discussing and who is going to be responsible for maintenance as we go forward. But that is a future. You first have to put, you don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. We have to figure out, can we do it first? Is it viable? Is it feasible? Is it cost effective? Is there going to be a return on investment? And then we will model how that gets taken care of in the future. If it's small stuff, typically the boaters will pull that out because that's in their way. Now, if it's big and a big tree like the one that sat there for years, that's a different animal, and we need to approach that. But it's a little bit down the road. It's a little premature to talk that currently. But great question.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all of you. This is a long time coming, and I can't think of anything more exciting than this project. The downtown is certainly exciting, but this has such promise. Now bear with me because I tend to think a little holistically. We are a four-season community here. And once upon a time, I was able to get the Park Service to work with me when I was working at Canal Place to have ice skating again. Because we have a history here of ice skating where the basin is. How deep are these areas here that we see?
The river's not very deep. Behind the dam, it should be deep, but it's not because it's set.
It's at least 7 feet.
But I don't know about the ice skating on the river.
Well, I'm just bringing it up as something you might want to put in your back pocket for later. I have this volunteer project. But it would be very meaningful, I think, to the downtown.
Yeah.
if it was-
I would think differently as a planner. I would actually pull that into the fairground space or somewhere that then I could have restaurants or food trucks, and I could really pull people in and create an economic development around that. Not just because of people coming in, but for your community. We actually just did that in the town I live in, and everybody thought it was crazy, it's never going to happen, and they had a waiting list. Every night you had to get tickets in advance. It was so popular. They now know that they need to expand that about 4 times the size.
Yeah,
And they use it synthetic.
Planners, you know, best, but
Yeah.
it's, winter is hard work.
You said something kind of spurred thought. One good thing that when I typically come into a community, I'm asked to help them come up with some kind of recreational destination. And I typically have to create everything they need all along the way. Cumberland has 2 of the major bike trails in the United States start and end here. You already have something special. Like we usually have to create that. You have a scenic train. You have Canal Place, historic rail. You have a lot of history. You have this recreation all around town. And then you have restaurants, you're going downtown. These are things that usually we have to come up with and tell them, you need this, you need these other pieces. You already have those pieces. So that's icing on the cake. Like you have that. Now we get to concentrate on a project like this. It's really special for me because I'm usually creating other things to get to that.
Right.
Yeah, so that you spurred that thought. Thank you.
Hi, thanks everybody for your presentation. It was really informative. This is enormous project, 25 million-ish. I know there have been asks from the federal government and from Maryland. My question is about West Virginia, because they benefited at least as much as the Cumberland area would from this project. How can we get them more involved, I guess, in funding this kind of enormous project? I just hear from the Maryland side and the federal side, but I hear very little about West Virginia.
Sure. I think we've started those conversations. I think there's very much interest in being a part of this. Talking with different agencies and tourism, they're seeing it. And I think all along they've seen it. They just wanted to see it, is it going to progress? There's opportunity there. There is cross-state funding. There's actually, Dee Dee mentioned it real quickly. There's a current project that is looking at a trail from Davis and Thomas, West Virginia to here. That is an ARC-funded project, and it was because they wanted to touch Blackwater Falls to Canal Place. That's really important. It's the same thing. So the state's thinking, that came from the state. It wasn't the Arise grant. It was actually an ARC Power grant that then is connecting that, because they see the importance of this project here, Canal Place and River Park. They wanted to start concentrating, how do we connect this big long distance trail, Henry Gasway Davis Trail. So it's thinking along those lines. And I think you're right. I'm glad you said that, because it is really important that they become a big partner. And they have a lot of opportunity, right? So I think great question.
Again, as an elected official here in Cumberland, I'm 100% in favor of this. I worked for state exec for 33 years, and I traveled all over about 10 different states, and I've seen where rivers are in towns, and also Dr. Kaufman across the state in their presentation on this year, the cities that reimbursed their rivers turn their economy around. And he brought up Ohio Power, where I worked there several times. I don't care if I was there in the spring, summer, or fall. Always have people come there spending money. So this project is going to do one heck of a job for our area. I hope we get it done.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I don't need the mic. I'm just going to say, what can we do to help make this happen?
Continue to support us and come to meetings like this helps a lot. We'll have information available on our website and social media page for events and different things coming up, and we need your support. Anything like that helps us.
Let me add something. I don't think I said it before, but these projects take a lot of time, and I think you do see people that might be a little impatient. They're going to get discouraged, because it takes 2 years to go through a process to get permitting. We work on a lot of projects that take that long, so we understand the process, and not everybody does. But I think the important thing for the public to know is it does take a long time, but it is very much worth it to get that done. You know, important projects take time.
Real quick, has the Bulls Creek ever been considered as part of the project and looked at from this when it comes to the narrows? Views of this as part of the phase, if it's phase 3, 4, 5, whatever.
We currently haven't looked at that yet. Colin and I have kind of talked about it on our own, but we haven't looked at it as part of this project. That adds a really different level of intensity to a project, especially you've seen it when it floods and it's at the top of that. That's a pretty significant channel. It's a little different than the Potomac side of it. So we haven't looked in detail at that at all.
Is that a possibility?
I'm not going to say yes or no.
So again, I'm Rob, and I'm with the Office of the United States Senator Ben Card. I want to address this fellow's question as well as Alan's in terms of who can kill this or what can kill this, or what can we do to make sure it happens. I can personally attest to support that this project received from Senator Card, Senator Van Hollen, and Congressman Trump. There was a three-legged stool. the environmental science, the economic data, and public support. And we received very positive information in each of those areas. We've got the data, we've got the science in the bag. This kind of turnout, this kind of support, I'm convinced, as Janice is, that all of our elected officials, seeing this three-legged stool, this kind of support for a project like this, will make sure we've got the resources to get it done.
All right, well, I guess we'll close. Certainly appreciate everybody coming. We hope we answered all your questions, most of your questions. Again, there's resources over there on the table. Grab my card. Please contact me with any questions you have. I'm always available. I love this project. I believe in this project, and this project will get done. It will get done. So thank you, everybody.